I used to think I needed expensive educational toys, special programs, and structured learning time to make my kids smarter. I felt guilty every time I couldn't afford the latest learning subscription or when I was too tired to sit down with workbooks. Then I discovered something that completely changed everything. The most powerful learning activities for children aren't the ones we buy or schedule. They're hiding in the everyday moments we're already living through. 5 simple activities you're probably already doing. But when you adjust them just slightly, they literally rewire your child's brain for better learning, memory, and critical thinking. The 4th one shocked me because I had been doing it totally wrong for years. If you want your child to be genuinely smart without spending a fortune or adding more to your overwhelmed schedule, hit that like button and subscribe right now because these 5 activities are backed by neuroscience and they read completely free. Let me start by sharing what happened when I shifted my approach. My daughter went from struggling with focus and memory to being genuinely curious and engaged with learning. Not because I bought anything new or hired tutors, but because I transformed ordinary daily activities into powerful brain-building experiences. And the best part? These don't feel like extra work because they fit seamlessly into what you're already doing. The first activity is cooking together, but here's the twist that makes it a learning powerhouse. Most parents let kids help in the kitchen by stirring or pouring, which is great for motor skills. But to boost actual learning power, you need to narrate the why behind everything you're doing. When you're making pancakes, don't just say add the flour. Say we're adding 2 cups of flour and flour is made from grinding wheat into powder. See how it changes the texture of our batter? When you mix wet and dry ingredients, a chemical reaction happens. These eggs are protein, and when we heat them, the protein structure changes. This kind of detailed narration does something incredible in your child's brain. It builds what's called schema, which is basically a framework for understanding how the world works. Kids who understand cause and effect, changes in states of matter, and measurement are better at science and math later. But more than that, you're teaching them to think analytically about everyday processes. My son started asking why questions about everything after we make cooking educational. Why does bread rise? Why does water boil? That curiosity is the foundation of all learning. The second activity is running errands together, and this one surprised me because I used to see grocery shopping or going to the bank as wasted time with my kids. But errands are actually incredible opportunities for real-world math, problem-solving, and decision-making. At the grocery store, I started involving my daughter in the process. We need 4 apples, can you count them out? This brand costs $3 and this one costs $4.50, which is cheaper. If we have a $20 bill and we spend $12, how much will we have left? These aren't abstract math problems on a worksheet. This is practical math that has real consequences and real context, and that's how children actually understand numbers. Studies show that kids who practice math in real-world contexts develop number sense faster than kids who only do workbook problems. But beyond math, errands teach planning, budgeting, comparison shopping, and delayed gratification. When my daughter wanted a toy at the store, instead of just saying no, I started saying that toy costs $15. You have $10 saved. How much more do you need? Should we save for it, or is there something else you'd rather spend your money on? She's learning financial literacy and decision-making just by being part of everyday life. The third activity is reading together, but with one critical shift that most parents miss. The learning power isn't just in reading the words on the page. It's in the conversation around the book. After every page or two, pause and ask open-ended questions. What do you think will happen next? Why do you think the character did that? How would you feel if you were in this situation? Have you ever experienced something similar? These questions activate multiple areas of your child's brain simultaneously. They're making predictions, which builds critical thinking. They're analyzing character motivations, which develops emotional intelligence and theory of mind. They're making connections between the story and their own life, which strengthens memory and comprehension. I used to rush through books at bedtime just to get to the end, but when I started pausing for these conversations, reading time doubled, but my daughter's comprehension and vocabulary exploded. She started using more complex words in her own speech and making sophisticated connections between different stories and real-life situations. Comment below and tell me which of these activities you're already doing, and which one you want to start implementing today. I really want to hear from you. The fourth activity, and this is the one I was doing completely wrong, is free play without adult direction. I used to think my job as a parent was to constantly engage my kids, play with them, teach them during playtime. But research shows that children need unstructured time where they're directing their own play without adult interference. This is when executive function skills develop. When kids are on their own with open-ended toys like blocks, art supplies, or even just cardboard boxes, they have to make decisions, solve problems, think creatively, and regulate their own behavior. I started giving my kids an hour each day of what I call creative alone time. I set out materials, blocks one day, art supplies another day, dress up clothes, whatever. Then I step back. I'm nearby if they need me, but I'm not directing or suggesting. At first, my daughter kept asking what should I build or what should I draw, but I'd say, what do you want to create? Within 2 weeks, she was coming up with the most elaborate, imaginative scenarios I'd ever seen. She built an entire zoo with blocks, created a restaurant with her play kitchen, designed outfits for her dolls. The creativity, problem-solving, and sustained focus she developed during this time transferred to everything else. Her school projects became more creative, she could work independently on homework, and she learned to entertain herself instead of constantly needing me. The fifth activity is dinner table conversation, and this is where language skills, critical thinking, and family bonding all come together. But it can't just be, how was your day? Fine. Okay. You need to ask questions that require real thought. Instead of, did you have fun at school? Ask, what was the most interesting thing you learned today? Instead of, did you play at recess? Ask if you could create any new game for recess. What would it be and why? Tell me about someone who was kind today. What's something that challenged you? These questions do several things. They teach kids to reflect on their experiences, which builds metacognition, basically thinking about thinking. They practice organizing their thoughts and expressing them clearly, which builds communication skills. They learn to have back-and-forth conversations, take turns, listen to others, and engage with different perspectives. My family's dinner conversations became the highlight of our day. My kids started opening up about struggles they were having, showing creative ideas, and we all learned so much about each other. Beyond the learning benefits, this time created connection and trust that made parenting so much easier. Here's what's incredible about all 5 of these activities. You're probably already doing most of them, or they're easy to start tomorrow. You're not adding expensive programs or complicated schedules. You're just being more intentional with the time you already spend together. And the impact on your child's learning power is massive. These activities build skills that no worksheet or app can teach. Critical thinking, creativity, problem-solving, communication, real-world application of knowledge, all the things that actually matter for lifelong success. I want to be really honest with you. When I first started implementing these strategies, I was exhausted and skeptical. Another thing to add to my list? Another way to feel like I'm not doing enough? But here's what I realized quickly. These activities actually made my life easier, not harder. My kids became more engaged, more independent, and more genuinely curious about learning. They needed less screen time because they were entertained by their own creativity. They argued less because we were more connected. And I stopped feeling guilty about not doing enough because I saw real results from simple everyday moments. If this approach resonates with you and you want to raise genuinely smart, curious, capable kids without the overwhelm and expense, please share this video with another parent who needs to hear this. Drop a comment telling me which activity you're most excited to try, or share how you already make everyday moments educational. And make sure you resubscribe because we're rebuilding a community of parents who focus on what actually matters instead of getting caught up in expensive trends and unnecessary pressure. Thank you so much for being here, and remember, you don't need to buy your way to smart kids. You just need to be present and intentional with the moments you already have together. That's the real secret to boosting your child's learning power.